Hello everyone, this is Raw TV. I'm Kaylee.
I'm Josh.
And this is the 22nd season of Raw TV. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling 22.
22 seasons, a bit more than 10 years. This has been an incredible run and we're so excited. I know I'm excited. Kaylee, you have to be so excited
I'm so
for
pumped.
it.
I'm just full of caffeine right now. I'm so ready to go. This is incredible. I have watched this show for multiple seasons, and to just see how it's grown and how we've done incredible things through this is incredible.
And to be a part of it is a fun journey that I'm glad to be on.
Yes, we are so happy to have you here. Yes, this is our new host, Josh.
Hello.
And I'm also new as a host. I was on panel, Word on the Street last semester, but I'm so excited to be here. Today we are talking about In the Wilderness.
The wilderness.
Yes, we go through many different trials, many different seasons of life. Sometimes those seasons aren't exactly where we hope to be, but as long as we stay in the will of God, we'll be okay.
That's true. And you know, you mentioned those seasons we may not want to be there, but that doesn't make those seasons useless. You find that that season that you're in the wilderness is where God will grow you the most, but you can't stay stagnant. You have to continue to move in Him, and He will continue to move in you and in your life.
Yeah, that is exactly right. And I can't wait to hear everything that the panel has to say, everything that we're just going to be able to dive right into about relationships, about your career. No matter where you are in life, as long as you keep your eyes on Him, you will be good.
That is true. We talk about how God always has a plan for your life. The staple verse behind that is Jeremiah 29:11. But we have to remember that while He has a plan, He also has the perfect timing for you and for your life. And as long as we are not rushing that timing, we can see the success and the fruit of what He has planned for you. But for now, we're going to send it to our new Word on the Street host, Candace Herring.
Marriage is a beautiful promise between two people becoming one. My grandmother was 15 when she got married. It is often incredibly sought after, especially by college students. That's why we're asking some local college students, why is there such an expectancy to get engaged at a certain age in the culture that we're living in? And what does it mean to wait on God? Let's see what they had to say. It turns out that waiting on God often brings the greatest gifts. Whether it's before, during, or after college, God's timing is perfect, and we should always trust that His plan is the most perfect plan for our lives. I'm Candace Herring with Word on the Street. Back to you guys in the studio.
I think there's such an expectancy for people wanting to get engaged at such a young age because we live in a world where we want to be with people, we want to be recognized, we want to make sure that we feel welcome somewhere, and so having someone with you makes that just life-changing.
I think there's such an expectancy. I think it really comes down to sexual purity and the stuff that people don't want to talk about.
So one thing I would actually say because of that is it's always about the culture and how it just seems like there's always a push to be in a relationship in that way.
I think we want to get engaged so quick because I think it helps us know where we're going. It's something firm that we just will know, and it'll give us more direction for our life. in the culture that there is a pressure to know like what to do next, like what the next step is, like have the 5 to 10 year plan.
It turns out that waiting on God often brings the greatest gifts. Whether it's before, during, or after college, God's timing is perfect, and we should always trust that His plan is the most perfect plan for our lives. I'm Candace Herring with Word on the Street. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you so much, Candace. That was awesome. So we are now here with the panel. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
I'm Nadia. I'm Skip. And I'm Haley.
So, as you know, we're talking about being in the wilderness, how there are so many different seasons, so many different trials that we go through. So, first off, I kind of want to dive into how you can go through a trial in relationships. So, how can you tell if you're in a healthy relationship, whether that be a friendship, whether that be romantic?
Yeah, I think it's when you see God in them, and they can see the way that you are representing God in yourself, and they are uplifting you and you are uplifting them, and God is at the center of it. I think that's like one of the biggest ways you can see that it's a healthy relationship.
Yes. As far as friendships, iron sharpens iron. The word says that. I love to surround myself with people that will encourage me, will tell me to dream big, will hold my hand, but will also tell me the hard truth. If something isn't right, they won't be afraid to check me and put me back in my place and always bring me back to the word whenever I stray away from it. But as far as relationships, I say, what is your foundation? What are your intentions? What are your motives? Is your relationship fruitful?
Yes. And one thing that we talked about earlier was if someone doesn't know how to or can't pursue God, then how can they truly pursue you? So there have been many times where I've wanted to pursue someone, but that's not my right to say, okay, I'm going to go off and pursue this person, or I'm going to go off and do this whenever it's not God's plan. So a lot of times we're in this place of waiting, and it's perfectly fine to be in a time of waiting. Is it not great? It's not great, I'll tell you that. Because for me, I'm always doing something, I'm always involved in things. And a relationship, whether it be a friendship or a romantic relationship, that's something that that's a goal in mind. So yeah.
So kind of what you were saying, what are some ways what are some reasons that Christians want to pursue relationships? I know loneliness can be a reason that people want to be in a relationship. Are there other reasons you think that Christians and people who aren't Christians have wanted to pursue relationship?
For me personally, there's in the time that we're in now, whether we're at Southeastern in a Christian university or out and about, I feel a pressure.
Something on the word on the street, they kept saying the culture. And in our culture, in our society today, the media is huge. And on the media, all you see is sex, because sex sells. So in a secular world, when people see relationships, they see things that they can do with other people, I'd say. And then along with relationships, you have different titles. So you have friends, then you have the talking stage, and then you have over past the talking stage, but then you also have friends with benefits. So I say in the secular world, where there is really no foundation, if they don't have a foundation, why should they have boundaries? And if they don't have boundaries, then temptation doesn't really mean a thing to them. So I'd say.
Yeah, exactly. I think going off of what you kind of said, that's a reason that a lot of Christians, I think, jump into relationships so that they can get engaged, so that they can get married, so that they can have sex. I have a friend who literally anytime I'm like, oh, so-and-so just got married or so-and-so just got engaged, he goes, that's because they want to have sex. That's just his mindset now because it's so common for a lot of Christians to just be like, well, I can't have sex till I get married, might as well get married young. And they rush into it and they don't think, is this the person God has for me? Is this person compatible for me? You know?
Well, it's the culture. You said it, sex sells. You know, that's why is it that has to be such a driving factor? Why is a relationship so focused on reaching that goal? You know, why is it that we can't focus more on what God has for our life rather than, and that's with your significant other. Why can't we focus on where God's taking you with that person instead of having that focus on what you're going to do with that person?
I think partially it's because it's just always around us. So obviously, like, we are, like, it's always bombarded, like, our minds, our hearts, like, everything is always around that. And so I think that is one factor, is that it's just the consistency of it. But then also I think just because it's appealing, like, God didn't say that it's wrong and it's not bad, like, it's not bad. And, like, that is a great, like, added on to marriage. Like, but I think we get so caught up in the appeal of it, that we forget that there are so many other great things to marriage too.
Right. Also, whenever you were asking that beautiful question, all I thought was temptation. Like, a lot of the reasons why people want to take that extra step is because of temptation. Like, it's the rush and the thrill of, okay, I'm getting so close to this person. Like we're on the same level, like emotionally and sometimes physically, and it's the temptation of it.
Yeah, so kind of what we're talking about in the wilderness is exactly that. We're tempted by things, we want to rush into it because we're not, like you said earlier, you're in a waiting stage. You don't want to be in that waiting stage. So is being in the wilderness being in that waiting stage?
It can be. I mean, a lot of times, like, I feel like I'm in limbo because I am in that waiting stage, or like I am like, it's a transition period for me because I'm transitioning from, like, being a child and being able to make mistakes that are easy to clean up, and now I'm, like, transitioning slowly but surely, but also I'm getting pushed in there, the adulthood that's, like, hitting me. So, and that comes with it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times when we're in that waiting stage, we're making excuses to why we think that we should be with this person. So we're like, well, I know I should be in a waiting stage, like, internally, but I think I should be with this person because this is definitely who God has for me, and I'm in God's timing. So how do you determine God's timing from something else?
Yeah, so it makes me think of the story of Zechariah and Elizabeth, and so they had waited so long to have a baby. Like, they worked and worked to have a baby, and they couldn't, and they were getting old, and they were like, God, like, I'm running out of time. And so they doubted. They got so fixed on their own desires that they doubted the God that held, like, their desires in his hands. And so when she was blessed with a baby, Zechariah was mute because he doubted God. And as soon as he, like, admitted that it was God's timing and that his timing is perfect, he had his speech back again, and he could praise God through that.
It's true, and that reminds me of the story of Ruth and Boaz. That's another probably the best example of waiting and of patience and waiting on God's timing, especially in a relationship, because Ruth was very vocal in how she was going to wait and how nothing was going to happen until God said, okay.
Right.
Until it was on God's timing, nothing happened. But then to see Boaz and Ruth continue to stay faithful through that time of waiting is really something that we need to try to emanate now. Especially with everything in our culture that is surrounding us with temptation, with all the other desires that we want to have. That's something that definitely makes me think of, that's the kind of relationship and the kind of lifestyle and marriage that you want to have. But as for now, this first panel, guys, we really appreciate it, but we're going to send it right back out to another Word on the Street with Candace Herring.
Everybody has a plan. Most people have had plans since they were little. I know when I was little, I wanted to become a veterinarian. These plans, paths, and expectations often change as one grows older. That's why we're on the street asking people this question. What were your expectations after graduating high school? And how did that turn out? Let's see what they had to say.
Go to college, maybe find a girlfriend, get married, get a nice job, have some kids.
My expectations were definitely very social, and especially coming to college, like, I think everyone puts on not even necessarily like a party life kind of thing, but that you're always doing something and you're always having fun with friends and whatever, and that's definitely true, but it's also very serious academically.
To go to college, get a degree, and then at the same time maybe find the love of my life. And so all that so far worked out. I'm in college. Well, I haven't graduated yet. I have one more year. It's taken a little longer than I wish it would have, but things happen. And then I'm married. I found the love of my life.
My expectations were to actually come to Southeastern, but the Lord actually brought me to the Ramp School ministry for 2 years, and I didn't expect to be able to come back to Southeastern, but He made a way for me to come back.
As we can see, plans don't often turn out the way that they think that they will. God shows us that His plan is ultimately the best plan for our lives. We can choose to follow His path or ours. However, we tend to see how much better God's plan is than our own. I'm Candace Herring with Word on the Street. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you, Candace. That was another great Word on the Street. We're back on panel, and this time we have a special guest, Olivia. You were here before. You had my position, and I had to follow in your footsteps, and it's been a ride, but I'm just so grateful to have you that I had to shadow and look at when I was, preparing for this role.
No, I mean, I think you're definitely the woman for the job and you're the man for the job, and everyone's doing so good. It feels amazing to be back on set. It's so nostalgic up here. I mean, we still got the same coffee table and everything. Nothing has changed, but this has changed, and I think change is good.
Mm-hmm. And another thing that changed is you
yes,
have a belly.
I have a belly, and I'll be 9 months in a few days.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Very soon.
That is so exciting.
Yeah.
How do you feel during this season in your life?
It is so wonderful, and it's just like, it's a pivotal moment in your life, and you never think that you're totally prepared for it. And but then it's happening. But me and my husband are just on cloud nine.
Aww.
There's a lot that goes into obviously being pregnant, but a lot emotionally. You want the baby to be born and come to full term, and a lot of fear can creep into your minds. But thankfully, Jamil and I, we're so solid, in knowing that God has taken care of our baby girl. So. It is good.
Cool.
It is very good.
I'm so happy for you.
I've
been watching you on Facebook, go through all the transitions, and I message you and be like, oh my goodness, I'm so proud.
Yes, you have. Thank you for the encourage,ment
It's so crazy. It's just incredible how many different seasons you can go through in life, and you're still a student through it all.
Yes, I Southeastern has just walked with me through all of these crazy seasons when I was getting married as a sophomore, and then doing all the cool fun stuff with Raw TV, and then. Now having a baby, it's like, wow, Southeastern, you have just covered most of the great things that are happening in my life. But it's cool,
awesome.
yeah.
That's so crazy. Well, just we're talking about, as you heard, we're talking about being in the wilderness, and I know that there are a lot of different stages that come through life. So how do you combat struggles being a wife, soon-to-be mother, a student? You work too.
Yeah.
So how do you combat all of those struggles in the midst of all the seasons that you're walking through?
Such a great question. I don't do it thinking I know exactly what to do, but I take on what I feel like I can handle, and sometimes I'm nervous about it. I was nervous, deciding, to become pregnant. Knowing that it's probably going to land in the middle of this last semester here.
Yeah.
But, I think it just comes with knowing how you work, knowing yourself. If I get highly stressed about certain things, then I'm going to choose to go about it a different way. And I think it really helps when you have people around you that help you. Knowing to ask for help is so key. And I have a husband who's ready to help me at any time. He'll drive me to school just because he's, doesn't want me to drive late at night from Lakeland back to Orlando, where home is. And but I think asking for help, knowing yourself how you handle things will determine what you decide to bring onto your plate as much as you can. Control life, right? Sometimes life hands you things and now you have to deal with it. But as much as you can, decide how much you can handle, then that's how I go about it. You know?
So I know that especially for me, when I'm in that season where I'm super busy and I'm committed to a bunch of things and God has opened a lot of doors and opportunities for me, I feel like I'm overstretching myself and I'm overcommitting. But then I've taken a step back and been like, okay, well, what are the ways that these are just growing me and stretching me? And that's the reason I feel like I'm spread thin, is because it's challenging. So have you ever had a time in your life where you felt like that and you're like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm doing way too much, but I still want to be committed to excellence?
Exactly. No, that's an excellent question. yeah, you can feel like God's opening up these opportunities. I must take them all.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? And some things are like, I cannot pass this up. I gotta do this now.
Yeah.
But you have to realize that, you know, you're gonna live more than a year. You know, God willing. You have to. I think something that my pastor told me when I was 19. I was planning to move to Georgia to become, you know, full-time actor. And I was like, I'm upset, I'm ready to go. I was going to leave my family, leave everything in Orlando and head to Georgia. And, you know, I called my pastor because I think what helps you during these times of deciding what to do in this season is having voices of wisdom around you. And for me, that was my youth pastor. I called him up. I was like, hey, can I get your blessing on this thing? And he's going to say yes and not really care. And he's like, you know what? I can't bless you because I don't think it's the right time. And I had to listen to that. And I could have said no, and I'd probably be homeless or something, who knows. But I could have said no. But I decided to listen to this voice of wisdom, trusting that whatever he's saying, it's for my good. And so I think, you know, deciding like, what can I take on this season? How will this benefit me? Knowing that next season, God is still capable of opening up other doors. And whatever you decide to not take on, don't feel like it's lost forever. And so I had to take that in my mind. Like, and you know, something my pastor said was that, you know, you're trying to live life so fast, thinking that you're going to die tomorrow. And while James Dean was like, you know, live as if you're going to die tomorrow, that's okay sometimes to think that way, but don't think it all the time, because then you're going to try to rush everything. And just think as if like God is still going to be God tomorrow, and he'll still be able to open those doors, and those desires are going to get fulfilled even if you don't do something this season.
I definitely feel you on that. I feel like I'm graduating a year and a half before all my friends. I'm graduating college at 20 years old, and I'm just convinced that I don't have enough time for anything. And I had an internship this past summer at a news station, and I was just like talking and asking questions to the reporters, and they were like, you need to like, you know, like I was jobless for 6 months out of college, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be jobless, I'm never gonna get a job. And they've been like doing it for 25 years, which is like longer than I've been alive. And I have to like step back and think, okay, if I'm jobless for 6 months, like I can find a job. It's not that I'm not going to be a reporter ever. It's just that I might have to work somewhere else for a little bit, and I need to be okay with being in those seasons in my life.
Absolutely. Like, you know, sometimes, things don't happen the way we plan. But in that, knowing, like, okay, what can I do with this 6 months of being jobless? and you never know. You go work a job that you didn't want to work, but somehow it opens you up to something else. And now I'm like, Lord, I would have never ended up here if I wasn't in the wilderness for a little while. And so you just have to stay hopeful, you know, knowing that, you know, when you direct your plans with God, he's going to direct your steps. And, but we definitely have to work hard as college students, land that job, but be okay if it's not exactly what you wanted right when you get out, because you never know what's in store.
That's true. You know, you talked about having those plans and that dream, obviously being a reporter, and I want to ask you, because is this, you know, now that you're married, now you're becoming a mother, you're still working, you're going to graduate, you know, you have dreams. Obviously you had the big dream of going to be an actress. Obviously it wasn't the right timing. So when it comes to the God-sized dreams that are in your heart now, especially having a child, but also moving forward after your degree, what are those steps, or what kind of advice would you give for the right steps to take in order to reach those God-sized dreams?
I think, trust in God. And then also, just don't limit yourself, you know, and don't limit God. And it's like, I hear people all the time say, oh, you're having a kid, looks like, you know, your dreams are dead. You know, it's like, no, you know, England, my baby girl, is not going to be this burden in my life. She's going to be a blessing. And she's going to be a blessing. And I'm not gonna limit myself and think, well, my dreams are dead, what I want doesn't matter anymore because now I have to worry about a child or I have to worry about marriage and stuff like that. No. These things are gifts that go along with what God has created you for. And all the desires he planted there. He wants them to happen. And you can still, you know, do the marriage thing, have a family, and still live the dreams that have been inside of you since, childhood.
Yes.
And so I think you just have to go about it knowing, like, I'm determined, and God's going to back me up.
Yes.
And I don't have to limit myself.
Well, thank you so much for sharing, Olivia. It's been incredible talking to you. Next, a food for thought.
One of the biggest decisions that we will make in life is who we marry. It is without a doubt one of the deepest longings under the sun. The fact that we desire marriage to such a degree is precisely the reason why the question of when it will happen for us often dominates our mind. But as Christians, we should never lose sight of the fact that we have a Heavenly Father. With something as big and life-changing as marriage, we have to trust that He is intentional in leading us on that journey, whatever it may look like for us, and that His timing is perfect. The truth is, whatever plan you have in your search for a spouse, God's plan is far greater than you could have imagined. A decision of this magnitude is worth the wait. So the next time the question of finding a spouse comes to mind, contemplate it for a little. But always remind yourself that it will happen in God's perfect timing. I'm Knowledge Washington, and that's your food for thought.
And we are back. Thank you guys so much for watching. We talked about being in the wilderness, how there are so many different trials that we can go through, but no matter what, if we keep our eyes on God and know our limits, we'll be okay.
It's true. We talked a lot about how being in relationships and looking forward to your career can be kind of a haunting task, and it's a little worrisome, but I know that the one thing that really needs to stick is the fact that if we stay within God's will and understand that His timing is the most important piece to it, then we're going to find that success, and we're going to find where it will place us in the right spot in our life.
Exactly. God's timing is so crucial, and we don't even realize it sometimes. But I'm going to pray us out. So, dear God, just thank you so much for being able to show us how your timing is the most crucial part of our lives. We try to rush through life, and that is not what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to keep our eyes on you, Jesus. And if we keep our eyes on you, we will be exactly where we need to be in life. If we look to the left and the right, whoever's running to you with us, that's who we want in our lives. And I pray that we would understand that in relationships, whether those are friendships or romantic. And I pray that you would show us which careers we need to be in, when we need to be in them. And let us know that it's okay to be in a place that seems like a trial. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Well, Olivia, we are so grateful you were able to come back and join us for the first episode of season 22. Ladies, we were glad you're here, as well as Haley. But for now, I think we're just going to go ahead and tell you to live it raw.